I just told you, like back in 2009, I was like 110 kilos.
Wow.
Like, if a 110 kilo Gujarati software engineer, Gujarati is the community I come from, that is not known for athletics from any angle or sports from any angle whatsoever. 110 kilo Gujarati and a software engineer. All those three. If I can go on a journey and transform myself to becoming a fit mountaineer who went and climbed Everest not just once but twice, and while doing it as a vegan, I honestly feel that each one of us who wants to be vegan and has big dreams in their life, doesn't have to be climbing Everest, can be any dream. I honestly feel can be done without any animals having to suffer or die for our dreams to come true or for our existence as well.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode on the Changemakers podcast. So today's episode features Kuntal Joisher. He's the first vegan to climb Mount Everest, and he did it not just once but 2 times. Insane. So Kuntal's an amazing animal advocate who went to great lengths to create the first animal-free climbing suit for his expeditions. So in this episode, we talk all about Kuntal's journey to veganism and of course about his vegan climb. Kuntal shares about his passion for creating a community where vegans can adventure without compromise. And we also touch upon tips for being vegan or turning vegan in India specifically. Side note, unfortunately, while recording the episode, the microphone's SD card got full and then it stopped recording the audio around 15 minutes in, 50. So you might hear a slight change in sound because I had to switch to the camera's audio instead. So I'm very sorry about that. But yeah, I'm just so excited I got Kuntal on the podcast. He is so inspiring. I'm so grateful that he joined the podcast to share his story. So yeah, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Kuntal on the Changemakers podcast. Thank you so much, Kuntal, for being on today's episode.
Thank you. Happy to be here again.
Yes.
Maybe again.
Yes, basically, yeah. We met once before for some content, so I'm excited to get your full story this time on the podcast. So just to introduce him, his name is Kuntal. He is a mountain climber, a vegan mountain climber, the first vegan mountain climber to climb Mount Everest. So I'm super excited to hear his story. Could you give a little bit further introduction to the listeners about what it is that you do and why do you do it? Just a further introduction.
So multiple things. I am a mountain climber, so that's the passion of my life.
Yeah.
So climbing mountains all across the world.
Amazing.
And also taking people to the mountains all across the world. So I would say, let's say there are about 10 million vegans in the world.
Really? I didn't know that.
I'm assuming. I'm just, like making a big guess, right? There's 8.4 or 8.5 billion people on the planet. I'm just going to, make a very, like a guess that there are about 10 million vegans in the world.
Nice.
And there's not a single vegan adventure company on the planet.
Wow.
Not one.
No way.
So the goal is to offer vegans a chance to go and have adventure travel or go on an expedition and do it in a vegan way. Like
Amazing.
When I started out as a mountaineer and I would go on trips, I would always be wondering on my plate, okay, does this oatmeal have milk in it? Is this bread vegan?
Right.
Is this food vegan? Is this vegan? I would go into the kitchen and triple check with the chef that whether this is a vegan. I would go into the expedition kitchen and check with the cook whether this is vegan.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would just say this is vegan. Like recently I was at Kenya airport, and Kenya airport is pretty big these days. Like they have built a new terminal and everything. And there are many cafes all across the entire airport. And I visited 22 cafes at Kenya airport. And I spoke to each and every cafe about vegan options. They did not know what vegan meant. They only knew what vegetarian meant.
Yeah.
And they were all the time trying to offer me a vegetarian meal. And I'm like, but I don't eat fish. I don't eat chicken. They considered fish and chicken vegetarian. I don't eat eggs. They considered eggs vegetarian.
Wow.
And I don't eat milk, and I don't eat any of milk products. And they're like, then the best thing you can have is some fruits. Or that you can drink.
So
but they
terrible.
they had a coffee with soy milk.
Okay.
So
Glad.
So my goal is to offer vegan adventure travel for vegans all around the world.
Amazing.
I don't want to go and tell non-vegans to join my trip. My target is very clear. I want to offer vegans an option to go and do adventure travel. And then not worry about, hey, whether what we are eating is vegan or what we are wearing is vegan, or whether animals are being used on the trip, or whether anything is happening. I just want them to come in a hassle-free fashion and just go and climb their mountain or do the trek or just have fun.
Yeah.
And have an opportunity to be with like-minded vegans on that trip. And maybe, may forge friendships and build groups. And sometimes this is also an issue that I've found where for my 14 or 15 years of mountain travel, I have never been part of an expedition where there has been any other vegan on the team.
Oh.
So I always have to be sitting on a table where everyone else is eating a dead animal on their table, and they're always telling me, Kuntal, are you okay? Is this fine if we eat like fish? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Yeah. Right? Like, you are eating a dead animal and you're asking if I'm okay. Like, of course, I'm not going to say it on their face, but internally I know I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, but this is our personal choice. No, there's no personal choice when a victim is involved. And so all these things are going on in my mind, but I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
So I also want to offer vegans a place where they can be on a table where there's no dead animal on the table.
Amazing.
So that's one piece.
Yeah.
The second piece is I work as a nutrition and a fitness coach. Again, something in the vegan world, especially in the Indian vegan scene, I honestly believe there are not very, very serious science and evidence-backed nutrition coaches or fitness coaches. I'm talking in the vegan fitness scene, right? Or in the vegan nutrition scene. There are many nutritionists and there are many fitness coaches, but I don't think there are people who are like very science and very evidence-oriented and very consensus-oriented. A lot of the people today are very dogmatic, very attached to a certain form of diet, and are very much driven by a lot of anecdotal evidence. And those things are not, I'm not discounting them, but I feel that they need to be taken in addition to science and evidence and in addition to a person's individual context before coaching them or before helping them on their personal journeys. Yeah. So that is something else I do, is which I am a nutrition and a fitness coach. And apart from that,
amazing.
A father to a 4-year-old vegan. So yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah.
I know. That's really, really cool. Like, I think you are the example of how you can be a plant-based athlete. You're showing people that, and at the same time, you're also a nutritionist and helping other vegans also on the same path of vegan mountain climbing. Amazing. Should we go back to the start of how you turned vegan?
Yeah.
And how long have you been vegan?
So this December, I will have my 21st vegan anniversary.
Congrats!
So, thank you.
Nice.
So let's go back to back in 2001. Wow. And back then I was a vegetarian. I was born in a vegetarian family. So of course I was raised a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I still remember how I would go into the school, or how I would go into vacations, or how I would always feel like I'm an elite guy.
You're a what guy?
I'm an elite person.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Hey people, I'm better than everyone else. That I don't eat meat, that I don't, there's no cruelty towards animals that I contribute to. And I literally took a moral high ground. Now I'm going to tell you how my journey progressed. I am no longer that person. But it's always important to discuss who I was in past. And August of 2001, I moved to Los Angeles to do my master's degree in University of Southern California. I think at that point, I became a little more independent, and I moved away from my family. So I started making money on my own. And then I started making decisions where I would be more than willing to go out and purchase a leather belt, go out and purchase a leather jacket, go out and purchase an ice cream which had eggs in them, or a Snickers bar. And the story I would tell myself is that, this leather belt is so nicely packed and put into Abercrombie and Fitch, or the Snickers bar is so, nicely packed and it's so tasty.
Yeah.
How can we know there be any cruelty in this, right? So that was a story I was telling myself. I had 2 roommates. One of them was an ethical vegetarian, is an ethical vegetarian even till today. In my mind, ethical vegetarianism is a paradox. Like you can't be ethical and you be a vegetarian. You have to be a vegan. That's a story for some other day. But and perhaps my story, because I felt an ethical vegetarian too. He started pestering me quite a bit, like literally that annoying auntie who would, like nag you about everything.
Yeah.
So we would go to the grocery shopping and he's like, why are you buying this? Why are you buying this? Why are you buying this? And I would just keep ignoring him.
It was vegetarian food that you were buying?
I was buying an ice cream with eggs in it, like a Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I had seen it, for the first time in my life, and it was super tasty.
Right. But the vegetarian, just to clarify, so in the Western world, vegetarian people can eat eggs, but in India, eggs are not vegetarian.
Eggs are not vegetarian. So then I always wanted to eat the Snickers, and I always wanted to eat those chocolates and that Toblerone, and I had always stopped myself from eating because these have eggs, and don't know what shift happened in the US, but I started eating all of those things.
Okay, understood.
So then he was always like telling me why, and I was always ignoring him. And then one day I said, why are you pestering me so much? Let me know, like, what's your point here? And he's like, there are eggs inside them. The leather belt you are wearing has leather in it. I'm like, what is the problem with leather? What is the problem with eggs? Why are you telling me that this is it? Tell me what's the background about this. And so he forwarded me a video of the undercover video that PETA has been doing undercover videos for a very long period of time. So this was 2002, late 2002, and he sent me a leather undercover video. So I went on to the PETA website. I'm like, okay, he's saying so much. Let's just, have an open mind and let's just look at this video. And I started seeing the leather video, and it was horrifying, to say the least.
What did you see exactly?
Cows being slaughtered and basically making the connection that it is cow skin that is leather.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you are so desensitized by the marketing and how nicely the products are packaged in like a mall that you really never see beyond that.
Super disconnected, yeah.
And so I'm like, whoa, like all those slaughters of the cows and how they were, some of the cows were being skinned alive or the crocodiles being skinned alive. And I was like, it's just a leather belt. I don't need to wear it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Or a leather wallet. I don't need to have one. So I was like, okay. And then back those days, there was no YouTube. But the site of PETA was still built in a really nice way. Like if you saw the leather, towards the end, there were 3 links that you could even see this. So the next link was eggs. So I went into the eggs video, and eggs was a little trickier for me. I'm like, it's just an egg, I'm not even eating the omelette directly. I'm not eating an egg directly. It's indirectly. How does it matter if it's directly or indirectly? Like, it was just such a stupid, thing that I was trying to convince myself about.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing eggs and how millions of male chicks are just slaughtered or grinded, or for example the de-beaking process, or just for the fact, this is not a connection that I made back then, but I have made it in the last few years, is that there is no consent involved when you are exploiting an animal, when you are abusing an animal, when you are slaughtering an animal. Just think about the words exploited, abused, slaughter. Do any of these words, seem like any positive words to you? None of them are positive words, right? So I made the connection around eggs, and I clearly knew that eggs are not vegetarian. Eggs are not, they are not for consumption of human beings. Wow. And then final video was the dairy video. Oof. Because I always thought that dairy is for humans.
Yeah.
And we take care of our cows. The cow is a mother for us. And how could we do anything to our mother? How could we exploit our mother? How could we abuse our mother? That cannot be possible. And so then I started seeing the cow videos. And that was, I have to say, heart-shattering. I think even that is like an understatement, honestly, here.
Yeah.
Because right from the inception, where they artificially inseminate the cow, imagine a sentient and an emotional animal and a human putting their hand in her vagina to artificially inseminate them.
Yeah.
If this was happening in a human being, you know what it would be called.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So when this was the very first step of the process,
yeah,
is
mad.
absolute abuse. Exploitation is not even a word. This is not exploitation. This is beyond abuse. Right? So that is the first process. And then how the cow is used over the course of her entire lifetime as just a milk producing machine, but not as an individual character. And that her babies are snatched away from her. If it's a male calf, it's definitely going to be slaughtered. Every part of this male calf is going to be used in some form of an industry or other. And then if it's a female calf, it's just going to be torture for her entire life.
It's crazy.
And when I saw all this, I'm like,
wow.
All this life I thought that I was a compassionate person, that I took care of animals, that I never contributed to any animal cruelty. And here I am drinking cow's milk away to glory every day, wearing her skin to glory every day, eating all her byproducts to glory every day, and for all other animals as well. It's not just about cow, right? All the farmed animals that I was contributing towards. And on the other hand, when you see a dog, you're petting the dog, so cute. And you see a cat, wow. Or you see wild animals and you photograph them. And here are these, farmed animals that you don't even think about. And that I feel was the turning point, because at that point there was too much internal dilemma. On one hand, there were these compassionate thoughts, this compassionate person, and then on other hand there was this the thoughts, the actions were not matching the thoughts. So I had to reconcile that, and there were two ways to do this. The first way was ignorance is bliss, apathy is king. Let's just lead our life as it is. Everything's going good. I don't need to change anything. Like, my boss always taught me, if something's not broken, don't fix it. I could have just said that is the case and let's go, forward in my life. Or the second case was that I could have taken a stand for the animals, and I could have done something about it. And I think I was 22, and for all my life I have been a person filled with apathy. And I have no problem saying that, honestly. I never took a stand for anything. I never stood for anything. You ask any of my friends today, they'll say that I was a happy-go-lucky person. And they still think I'm a happy-go-lucky person. I'm not. And honestly, I would like to get rid of that tag, happy-go-lucky. I'm not happy-go-lucky, okay? I'm happy. And I'm lucky perhaps as well. But that happy-go-lucky connotation, that people have, like, okay, he's just chill, he doesn't care about anything. That is not who I am. And for the first time in my life, I took a stand, and I thought, okay, there are two things that I control. What goes in my mouth, which is mainly my food, and then what goes on my body, which is my clothing and the daily items that I was using, anything from a toothpaste to a sunscreen to a shampoo or anything. Because my roommate had also told me that that shampoo that you are using, it has eggs in it. And till that day, I never thought. I thought it was only about food. But when he started kind of exposing me at that point, I was like, okay. And I decided that I control both of these things, and I'm going to ensure that there are no animals on my plate in any fashion. And then I also realized that there is a massive community that calls themselves vegans. And I turned vegan overnight.
Amazing.
There was a whole host of things in my home. Like, I remember my favoriteest woolen sweater that I had. Like, I still remember that sweater. It was so awesome. I took it out. I took my leather belt. I took my leather wallets. The food articles were very easy. I took all of those out. All the sunscreen, shampoo, everything. I could have honestly used it to the end of life. But at that point, I just wanted a fresh start. I'm like, how could I have for 22 years of my life contributed to so much cruelty? I can't stand this.
I know.
I gave it away, everything, to whoever, like my friends or the community center nearby. I had this, like a grocery cart that I was literally like roaming around one day with all my stuff and asking all the homeless people, take whatever you want. And then anything that was not given away, I just dumped it, like, just threw it away. Bad decision, but I threw it away. And I was a vegan since that day. And
do you remember the day?
I don't remember the day.
But December.
Because I didn't think that this would be such a big part of my life. I just thought, like, my friends only remember that I make decisions for 6 months. Like that, they all were like, he's going to go vegan for 6 months and then he's going to come back. And honestly, I didn't think that vegan anniversary was a thing, or that this decision is going to be such a crucial decision of my life.
Yeah.
And like I tell everyone that it was the best decision of my life.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you that it's not like just eating broccoli or like using a plant-based shampoo, made the difference. It is not that. I think it was just the symbolic act of standing against oppression or thinking more in style of social justice. I think that is what opened like floodgates in my life. Yeah. Because till then, I was honestly a guy filled with a lot of apathy. And so then it was
powerful.
Taking a step back, looking inside, and seeing what all other shit is there. Wow. Right? So then I think the very first thing was LGBTQ. I have no idea why. Maybe there were a couple of instances that happened to me in LA where I had developed extreme hatred against LGBTQ.
Oh, okay.
And I was very toxic on that topic, honestly. But when I connected the dots around veganism, that there is no difference between a piece of meat or a glass of milk or a block of cheese or leather belt or woolen sweater or any of those things I was eating, and they all come from abuse, slaughter and exploitation, and that it's an oppressive practice. I started connecting dots around many other oppressive practices that were in my mind, and especially started with LGBTQ. Am I going to say it was an easy journey that I overnight changed? No, I did not. It took a while for me to undo a lot of toxic shit, right? Even though I've been brought up in a family where my mother is a very strong, powerful female. My sisters have been brought in a family where females have brought me up.
Nice.
Yet I have been brought up in a very patriarchal mindset. And so there were also some seeds of sexism that I'm better than, females and, those kind of mindset that was still there. So the journey started to undo that piece. And that, things like casteism or racism that, I'm better than someone. Again, everything, centered around oppression. So kind of started a journey of undoing some of those things. So veganism, or taking a stand primarily, right? Not veganism. It was taking a stand against an oppressive, cruel practice. That allowed me to look inwards and start taking a stand around all other oppressive practices.
Wow.
And I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. We're never going to be perfect, right? It's a journey, not even towards perfection, right? I feel this is the journey of life, where you are on a journey where you are learning about many, many things that you have never thought about, and things that someone points you out and you're like, oh shit, never thought about this. And then you kind of start reading about it, you start educating yourself about it. And so since then I have kept an open mind and been on a journey where I'm constantly learning. And if there's toxic shit, look, we all have.
Yeah.
Get rid of them from your life. There's no space. We are such a blip on the timeline of the universe.
Yeah.
Such a blip, like even
crazy.
Less than a blip, that I feel that there's no space for toxic shit in your life. Like, you have to get it out. And it may take a while, but you have to get it out. So that's the journey I have been on. And I think when we met this last time, and I think we both of us, had the same thing where the only regret I have is, why didn't I go vegan sooner?
Of course.
So this is, where I am. This is my vegan journey, and that's why veganism is such an integral part of my journey.
Yeah.
Like, I remember a few years ago, this very big yoga institute reached out to me and said, hey Kuntal, can you come and do a talk at our institute? We would really like to hear about your inspiring story and of climbing Everest and all of those things. And at the end of the call, they said, but you cannot speak about veganism. And I am like, veganism is what is Kuntal. You cannot delineate the two things. If there is no veganism, there is no Kuntal. Yeah. It's that connected, that integral part of my life. There's no separation there. So how am I supposed to come to your platform and talk about my journey without talking about veganism? I decline your talk very gracefully, or whatever you want to think about it, humbly or whatever. I don't care. And they were a little upset, but I'm not going to come and speak to you if you are going to tell me that don't speak about veganism. So it is, who I am. That is what, the point I'm trying to make here.
Yeah. And I love that the fact that the veganism just opened up this floodgate of like compassion towards everything. And like, I agree as well. So much that veganism taught me as well. Like it's a beautiful journey to go on. And the facts about the whole wish we could go vegan, wish we went vegan sooner. But I think it's that we don't realize what's happening to animals. Like you watch these PETA videos and then you realize how why do dairy cows have milk, and before that we just don't know. Wow. That's so inspiring that you just did that overnight. I love it. And then let's come to your mountain climbing story. So you climbed Mount Everest not just once, but twice. And was it your intention, was your mission to be the first vegan to climb Mount Everest?
No. Because, look, back then, I really didn't have any idea that a vegan had climbed Mount Everest or not. Honestly, after I turned vegan, it's not like I come from a athletic background or a sports background. Like my family, if you ask anyone to go one floor, they would take an elevator. Okay? So they would not climb like stairs to go one floor. Okay, so that's how my family is, and that's how I was. I was like, people think going vegan and you would lose a whole host of weight. And after going vegan, I actually put on weight and I was 110 kilos.
Wow.
I was near obese. Wow. And I ate whole host of unhealthy fried vegan food. It was very tasty and I don't regret it at all. So, but it was just by chance, I don't know. I don't know how I stumbled on Everest. Or I don't believe in destiny, I don't believe in these things, but whatever, it led me to falling in love with mountains at one point. Nice. This was a story way back in February of 2009. I was on a trip with my wife to the Himalaya, and on that trip I fell in love with the mountains. Or I should say that I fell in love with the state of mind that I was able to achieve in the mountains. And that led me to go on many more mountain trips, leading to a trip in October of 2010, where I was at the base of Mount Everest. And I still remember that evening very distinctly. We were all in our dining tent. We were all chit-chatting. We had just finished our trip and we were all very much in there was so much exhilaration, so much joy. And we were just all so happy that evening. And there was this Sherpa guide who just started shouting my name outside. And I was like, if in the mountains someone shouting your name, it's almost always never good. So I quickly ran out and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, sir, look at Everest. Mm-hmm. And so I turned around and I looked at Everest. The last rays of sunset were directly falling on Everest.
Wow.
Every other mountain in the colors of grey and blue, but Everest burning golden in color. As if someone had taken all the snow and lit it on fire. When I saw Everest that way, I fell in love.
That's so cute.
I think every time my wife listens to this dialogue and she's like, you fell in love with a piece of rock instead of falling in love with me. I did. Yeah. Honestly, I did. Yeah. But I think, jokes aside, it was like an internal calling. A calling that honestly I could not say no to. So I came home and I reached out to some of the companies that ran Everest expeditions and I said that I wanted to climb Everest. And they were like, great, send us your resume. I'm like, I don't have a resume. So they're like, you need to build one. You need to go start training. You need to go climbing other mountains and then you can come back to us. And then as I started discussing with them, I also said that I am a vegan. Will that be a problem? And they're like, you can't climb as a vegan. And it was a little bit of, I was taken aback. I'm like, why? What's the problem? Yeah. And they're like, you would need all the meat and all the dairy and all the eggs during your training to create an endurance, to create the body that needs to climb Everest. Wow. And what about on the mountain? You will need all this extra energy. You will need to stay warm. You will need clothes made out of leather. You will need clothes made out of feather jackets and, all a host of things woolen thermals, and you can't do this as a vegan. So I'm like, okay, as any smart person, I went on Google and I typed climbing Everest as a vegan. And this was, I think, 2010. Has it ever happened to you that you have typed anything on Google and there have been no responses? Google will throw up something or the other.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
For me, I literally got 0 results. I'm not going to say 0 results. Like Google will throw up some, crap.
But not what you were
crap.
looking for.
Like, there was nothing there because no vegan had ever climbed Mount Everest.
Wow.
So even back then, it's not like I was thinking I want to become the first. The goal was that there's so much pushback from everyone that I thought I am going to do Everest as a vegan or I'm not going to do it at all.
Wow.
This is, this is like,
so cool.
as I said, that Kuntal and vegan cannot be there's no the day I die, hopefully I will live many years. I'll climb many more mountains.
Yes.
But I hope my legacy will be that when people remember Kuntal, they remember vegan. And that he inspired us for veganism, that is what people remember me for. Nothing else. I don't care about everything else. Okay.
Yeah.
So back then I was like, okay, I have to climb it as a vegan. So that's how the whole thing started. And I'm like, look, I'm an engineer. I like reverse engineering things. So I'm like, so I'm sitting down and thinking, why are they saying I need to eat meat? Like, what does meat have? Okay,
Yeah.
Meat has protein. Sure, great, got it. Why are they telling me eat eggs? Okay, eggs have protein, some good micronutrition. I'm not going to deny that. Why are they asking me to drink milk? Okay, has some calcium, has some protein, has some micronutrition. But then I said, whatever I am eating, which is the vegan diet, I quickly did my research and I did 1 + 1, and it was very clear in my mind that a vegan diet provides all the protein I need, it provides all the micronutrition I need, it provides all the calcium I need, it provides everything that I need. I may have to do better than what I'm doing right now, which was back in 2010, but there is no scientific or nutrition literature that says that vegan diet cannot give me enough protein or enough micronutrition. That is an absolute myth, and that I need to debunk that.
Yeah, nice.
And so I'm like, let's just start with a small mountain. Let's start training. Let's start changing my diet. I reached out to a friend in the US. This is a blog called Happy Herbivore. She was one of the first persons to guide me in my nutrition journey.
Nice.
And she did it all for free. Didn't charge me money because she's like, hey, you're doing Everest and I'm going to support you.
So nice.
She looked at my existing diet and she said you could make these small changes and it should allow you to get better, like train better. And I started training, and October of 2010 I started making all the changes after coming home. And this was July of 2011. So about 10 months later, I summited my first 20,000 feet peak.
Wow.
As a 100% vegan.
Wow.
I do have to make a disclaimer here that there were animals used on my expedition, but that was completely not under my control.
Right.
And I was still trying to carve out a path of how was I going to climb as a vegan. So there were some things that I simply didn't have under my control. I said, okay, I'm going to climb as a vegan from a dietary perspective.
Yeah.
For a 20,000 feet mountain, I really didn't need any non-vegan gear, luckily. So I was able to climb without any non-vegan gear easily. The animal usage was one bit of like an aspect, but I'm like, okay, I have proven to myself that a mountain can be climbed on a vegan diet.
Yes.
And we were like 9 or 10 of us on the climb, and I can definitely say that I was in the top 3 climbers on that team. Now, I'm not pom-pomming myself or saying that hey, I'm like a best climber in the world, nothing like that. But I was really, really decent on that climb, and that gave me a lot of confidence that mountains, big mountains, any kind of mountains can very, very much be climbed on a vegan diet.
Amazing.
And then I just have to go on the journey of building the foundational fitness and just experience and the skills and the number of hours. Like recently, both of us were at the vegan festival of Mumbai, and there, like, I and Sandeep Kumar, the other guy who's an ultra marathon runner, both of us agreed on one thing, that about 10 to 15,000 hours of training is required for you to become a very high level athlete. In the last 14 years since I started training for Everest, I would have easily spent more than 15,000 plus hours in training and on the mountains. That's
Wow.
that chunk of my life I've
Yeah.
spent just training myself to get ready to climb Everest and other mountains of the world.
Wow.
And
Dedication.
so, like, sure, I went on the journey, and I'll share more about my journey. But I have to tell you, today, sitting here, 2023, almost getting over,
Yeah.
if I have to jot down the top 100 challenges for Everest, veganism, specifically vegan diet, would not be 101st challenge on that list. It was that non-issue. So, sitting here, already 2023, end of the 2023,
Yeah.
if I have to, in the hindsight, if I have to jot down the top 100 challenges that I had while climbing to the top of Mount Everest, honestly, a vegan diet would not even be 101st number on that list. It was that non-issue. On the other hand, vegan gear was definitely a little bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
but still, honestly, nothing that was not unsurmountable or something.
Yeah.
But going back to my journey, in April 2014, after 5 years of training
Wow.
and a lot of preparation, I was ready to climb Everest.
Wow.
And I landed up at the base camp. And we started our climb. And I distinctly remember the morning of April 18th. I walked into the dining tent. I just wanted to like get some food, some coffee, and like I was super hungry. It was like 7 in the morning, and my expedition leader Tim Rippel was like hooked onto his radio, and like his face looked like super grim, like as if he had like something big had happened. And I like asked, "What happened, Tim?" And he's like, 17 Sherpa guides have lost their life
Oh no.
in a massive accident in a very, very critical section of the mountain called the Khumbu Icefall.
Oh wow.
I'm like, that's bad. And he's like, that's bad.
Wow.
And it turned out to be so tricky that for the next few weeks, we were not able to find a safe passage through the mountain.
Oh wow.
And we were simply not willing to risk any more lives, right? 17 have already died.
No, yeah.
Some of the most rock star climbers on the planet. We are not even rock star climbers. We are dependent on them.
Yeah.
So if they died, how are we going to pass through that area safe?
Whoa.
So all the expeditions that year on the south side of the mountain were cancelled, and we had to turn around and come home. So we all came home. I'm like, it's just 1 year. At least I'm alive.
Yeah.
Think of those 17 guys.
No, rest in peace.
Their families are like shattered forever. At least I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Right? The mountain is still there. I am still alive. I can always go back and climb the mountain again.
Yeah.
So I trained harder,
Yeah.
and I went back to climb the mountain in April of 2015 again.
Wow.
Now, Everest is climbed in stages. Takes about, I would say, anywhere between 50 to 65 days to climb the mountain. So stage 1 is you walk to the base camp. Takes you about 10 days. Stage 2 is about 25 to 30 days, where you let your bodies acclimatize to the various altitudes on the mountain. Everest is 29,000 feet. You're going back home. When you're in your flight and when it goes to the cruise altitude,
Yeah.
just check out your screen. It's going to say the temperature outside is minus 50 degrees Celsius,
50?
minus 50. And it's going to say the altitude is 30,000 feet. That's the altitude I have physically been at, climbing myself, not in a plane, right? So it takes a long time to let your bodies adjust to the various altitudes on the mountain, and so that stage is like about 25-30 days. And then we wait for the right weather window, because on top of Everest for almost the entire year there are winds of almost 250 to 300 kilometers per hour blowing.
Whoa.
But sometime in the middle of the May, these winds that are known as the jet stream, they slightly tend to go a little north or slightly higher. That means the winds drop down to about 20 to 30 kilometers on top of Everest. That is the time when we can sneak on to top of Everest and come back down.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of people tell me
Crazy.
so many headlines around me. Someone was taking my interview yesterday at the Indian Vegan Festival,
Yeah.
and they said, "You conquered Mount Everest."
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, I did not conquer Mount Everest. Okay, no one does.
Yeah.
Honestly, we are just humble guests on the top. If
love
Everest wanted, those 300 kilometer per hour winds would be there, and no human could ever make it to the top. Okay,
Yeah.
if and that is honest,
Yeah.
truth here.
Yeah.
So we literally just sneak up to the top of Everest and come back down, and that the last stage takes anywhere about 10 days or so, right? So it could take, like, depending on the weather conditions, you could literally be for 70 days on the mountain. Oof. I remember in 2021 or 22, people were there for 70 days on the mountain.
Wow.
So it can be a really long drawn expedition.
Yeah.
So in 2015, we had finished stage 1, we had finished stage 2, and this was April 25th, and we were sitting in a dining tent. Dining tent is usually where we all hang out, and after hard days of climb, and we come back and we get to eat some good food, like good vegan food especially, and you can kind of chill out, you can relax. And I remember there was a low cloud that had set in at the base camp. So when a low cloud gets set in, the temperature is a lot warmer. So I was like wearing my t-shirt, and I was like wearing like a regular, trekking pants, and I was wearing slippers. Like chilly, good day at the base camp.
Yeah.
And we were in the dining tent, and at 11:55, my chair started shaking.
Shit.
And I'm like, this doesn't look very good. Like, I've lived in California, so I know what a small earthquake feels like. This feels something weird. Doesn't feel like just a regular glacier shake. And then 5 seconds later, the whole dining tent is shaking. We were in middle of one of the largest earthquakes to hit Nepal in a century.
Whoa.
A 7.9 magnitude earthquake. I still remember we all ran out.
Yeah.
And we were standing on the glacier. And the glacier was swaying from one end to the next, like a giant swing. And for a moment, I was joking with my German climber friend that what if the glacier breaks apart like those Hollywood movies, and we are all like sucked into the mountain? And he's like, that doesn't happen. It just happens in the movies, doesn't happen in real life.
Oh my days.
And
crazy.
The earthquake went on for almost 65 seconds. And then there was this eerie calm. And then we heard this loud boom. Like a massive bomb blast had happened somewhere, and we quickly knew it was an avalanche. But because a low cloud had set in, we couldn't see where the avalanche is coming from.
Oh,
but in my mind, I was like, we are invincible. We are not going to die here.
Oh my god.
No avalanche has reached the Everest base camp in 25 years.
Okay.
Nothing is coming to us.
Okay.
So I'm standing here.
Yeah.
There are 15 people standing in front of me, and those 15 people start running towards Everest. But the voice of the avalanche is also coming from towards Everest. So I'm like, have these guys lost it or what? Why would someone run towards danger?
Yeah.
But that's when I realized that the danger was behind us.
Right, it's just the echo or something.
Just the echo of the avalanche. So I turned around, and we were faced with this giant, massive avalanche.
No.
Like from the left of the sky to the right of the sky, anywhere you could see. The whole sky was filled with snow and ice. And think of it like as an infinite tsunami coming towards you and like just going to like wash you apart or like kill you apart. And in that moment, I didn't think that I was going to die. I was very certain that I was going to die. So,
sorry, I thought you were gonna say the opposite. Oh my god, you had like a near-death experience. Please continue.
So I'm standing here and I'm like going from feeling invincible to my death in the very next moment.
Oh my god.
I'm just going to tell, though it was very weird, I always felt that when I would be faced by death, I would like feel shit scared, like I would shit my pants or something scared.
Sounds like I would in that situation.
But I didn't feel that way. I just felt incredibly, like, I think incredibly is also the wrong word. I think every cell of my body had this deep sadness. Shit, I'm going to die. It's the time has come. And that I don't want to die from the most deepest parts of my heart. And there's so much to do.
Wow.
And here death is in front of me. But you can't do anything, right? You have to surrender. There's nothing. It's not like I can run left or right or anywhere.
Yeah.
I can't do much here. Still, 3 of us, in panic ran and hid behind a tent.
Okay.
In the hindsight, I'm like, how was that plastic tent going to save us anyway? But whatever, right? When you're panicking. There's not much you can think about here.
Yeah.
We just went and we hid behind the tent, and the avalanche came and hit us hard. And my first thought was we'll be buried in like 2-3 feet of snow and it's going to just be slow, painful, incredibly bad death.
Jesus.
Then 10 seconds later, I look at my hands and I'm like, there's only 2 inches of snow on my hands. Doesn't look like I'm getting buried under anything here. But then I couldn't breathe. So I'm like trying to suck in air. And I'm like, oh, why can't I suck in my air? Maybe I'm panicking. Maybe I just need to chill. So I'm like, stop panicking. But I'm like trying to suck in air constantly and I'm not able to suck in air. And then I hear something from the guy next to me who's like, Kuntal, come inside my jacket and breathe. And he opens his jacket and I just put my face inside his jacket and I'm like, whoa. It literally felt like someone was choking me to death.
How come
We were not... The avalanche created a massive shockwave. It was almost like a bomb blast that ripped the base camp apart. Wow. So we were in the aftershock of the avalanche. Yes, there was a lot of snow and ice. But it was not... If we were under the real avalanche, we would have been crushed to death. Like... You would not even have found our dead bodies. We would have been that badly killed. So we were in the aftershock of the avalanche and it's like almost the whole air got filled by aerosol.
Okay.
Like, if I had sprayed like a deodorant in the whole room. Imagine going and trying to breathe in that. You just can't breathe in that. And literally when I went into this jacket, it felt like I was a newborn baby. Like I was taking my first breaths of air.
Wow.
Like, whoa. Like I'm, going to live.
Yeah.
And so 2.5 minutes later, as the whole aftershock also passed over us, we finally no one dead in our team. Not even a scratch on our body. When I said happy-go-lucky, this is the lucky bit. Where I really was lucky. Because 50 feet away from my campsite, 50 feet, that's nothing. Like that's probably 2 lengths of this room. That is it. 5 people dead.
No.
Killed in like the cruelest fashion possible that I would not even wish on my worstest enemies on the planet. That's how badly they got killed. 21 people dead at the base camp, more than 100 injured, some extremely gruesome injuries. It was literally like a war zone, that we were like walking through. The whole base camp like flattened. Every tent gone, like it was just gone. You do a before and after, you would like be like a tent city, and after nothing left. It's just flat ground on a glacier. Whoa. We just completely destroyed, and we realized that 10,000 people dead in Nepal, 5 lakh people displaced from their homes. That's about 500,000 people displaced from their homes, and it was shocking. Honestly, it was no longer a mountaineering tragedy like 2014, where it was a mountaineering tragedy. But it was a humanitarian tragedy of unprecedented levels. And in my mind, I'm like, I have no intention of climbing this mountain because I just want to get out of here. There's aftershocks continuing to happen every half an hour.
No, you need to really...
If something comes again, I am not going to be lucky twice. I need to get out of here. I don't need to climb any mountain. Anyway, luckily the mountain expeditions were cancelled all across the Himalaya, the north side, the south side, India, Pakistan, Tibet, everywhere. Every mountain expedition, everywhere, all across the mountains were cancelled because this earthquake had impacted everything. This was a massive earthquake.
When was this?
This was April 25th, 2015. That night, as we were exiting the mountain, or we were supposed to exit the mountain the next morning, but when we were sleeping in our tents, we were sleeping in like shifts because we were so scared that something else would come. And if we are all sleeping, then we don't want to die in our sleep. So like we had one person sleep from stay awake from 12 to 2, another from 2 to 4, another from 4 to 6. So it was my time to stay awake in the tent. It's like my whole life flashed back in front of me. And I am like, first of all, I am just simply grateful to be alive. I'm lucky to be alive. And that this life that I have from now on is a bonus, honestly. Because I had said my prayers. I was ready to die, few hours ago. So every moment from now on is a bonus. But at the same time, if I have any dreams, any passions in life, anything that I want to pursue, the time is not tomorrow or day after. 60 years, I'll have all my savings, the time is now. You know, that moment I'm like, am I even going to be alive the next moment? Like, why am I keeping my dreams for like sometime in the future when I have not even, like I'm sitting here and Avalanche could come and kill me right now. So I'm like, I'm going home, but I'm going to come back next year and climb this mountain. I'm very clear in my mind about this. But let me also backtrack and say that I can do these things because I come from a place of privilege. Right? Because I don't have to think about where my next meal is going to come from, where my home is, all of these things, right? I come from a place of privilege, so I can like sit and say, I am going to climb my Everest.
But listen, how impressive is it about that you still, after experiencing that in the mountains, it didn't stop you from wanting to climb it. It actually pushes you towards it.
It did push me towards that.
Like crazy.
But I came home and there was a lot of pushback. Like people were telling me, you know, don't go back, you'll die. So many people died. Like one gentleman saying, 2014 you went, 17 died, 2015 you went, 21 died.
Yeah.
And then he said that, stop going so that people can stop dying. I'm like, how does that make even any sense?
But the fact that it didn't scare you, you know, you were just like not scared, like, because it could happen again. I mean,
it could happen again, but that's not in my head. You could be walking on the street and a rickshaw could come and hit you and you would die, right? So like, it's. I was not going to let that scare me from climbing the mountain. So
yeah,
lot of pushback, lot of negativity around, Kuntal, you don't have what it takes, you're wasting so much money, you're going in here, da. I can easily block out all the negative stuff, you know, just like kind of create this nice bubble around me and like focus on my journey, focus on my stuff. Let's go climb the mountain, let's do it. Because if I don't, the regrets are only going to be mine. People who are going to want to say are going to say anyway things. So that was like, you know, my key thing. Wife and family were super supportive. They were like, we know that this means a lot to you and that we are going to support you. Just stay safe. Yeah. Like, we don't want a dead Kuntal. Dead Kuntal is not useful to anyone. Yeah. Right? So, not to the vegan, you know, community. Actually, to the vegan community, dead Kuntal would have been like so like a really bad thing, honestly speaking. So, that's something at the back of my mind all the time when I'm on the mountain. I can't die. Yeah. I can't die because then people are going to make it out a point around veganism. Kuntal died because of his veganism. So like, that's always at the back of my mind. So anyway, I trained harder. Went back in 2016. Now I'm not going to get into the details. But stage 1 finished, stage 2 finished, stage 3 90% done. And I was at camp 4, which is at about 8,000 meters. And I remember at 9:30, my Sherpa guide, Mingma Tenji Sherpa, and I started walking towards the summit of Mount Everest. Wow. I think about 11 and a half hours of walking. We got stuck in a couple of very bad traffic jams. Wow. Otherwise, both of us were feeling very fit and very strong, and we would have done it in about 6-7 hours or so. But those traffic jams took a lot out of us. Yes, traffic jams happen not just in Mumbai.
Traffic jams on the mountain?
Look, there's a single rope that leads you to the top of Everest. Right. Yeah. And if there's a slow climber who has gotten stuck on that rope, then there's going to be a traffic jam of climbers behind this slow climber.
You can't cross the climber.
Now to cross the climber, you would have to get off the rope, go towards the right or go towards the left, and then free climb. And if a certain accident happens during free climbing, you could fall to your death. So most people usually will not take the risk. They will stay in the line, stay behind the guy, and maybe that guy, when that gets tired and sits for a break or decides to go out of the line, we all just overtake them. But then there were so many slow climbers that night that we got stuck a lot. And then I remember at 9:15, like I was standing and I could see Mingma on the top of Everest, like, you know, waving to me. Like, finally, finally I've done it. And I think a lot of people ask me what was going on in my mind, and I have to tell you, like, I think the first feeling was like, fuck, I have done it. Done it, man. Done it. You know, all this amount of hard work and, you know, journey, I think I don't know what happened. The next thing I just started crying. Like I cried like a baby. I couldn't control myself. Like tears were just flowing. And then I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry, but tears are flowing. And they were all freezing as the whole there was like this whole frozen thing. I'm like, no, I don't need this stuff here on the top of Everest. So I'm controlling myself, and then I'm walking towards Big Ma and gave him a big hug, because he's been like the brother I never had, like brother from my another mother. So he has been my, not just brother, he's been my brother, sister, friend, mother, father, guide, mentor, everything on the mountain. Like without him, honestly, I would have never made it to the top of any mountain that I have climbed, till today with him.
He was your shepherd?
Basically, he was my climbing partner, my Sherpa climbing partner. So both of us made it to the top, gave him a big hug.
Yeah, of course.
Made a phone call to my family. I had a satellite phone which just had 1 minute in it. So I called and I'm like, Dipti, I'm on top of the world. And Dipti's like, I can't hear you. I'm like, no, this can't be happening on the top. So I'm like shouting again, I'm on top of the world. And I'm like, are you on top? I'm like, okay. Yes. I think she got it, and then it just went viral on Instagram and it went viral on Facebook, and everyone started talking about it. But I was on the top. I didn't know what was going on. So then, of course, I think the last thing I did was, I'm like, Mingma was like, let's hurry up, let's go down. There's too much traffic. You also have to, pass them the other way. They're all coming up. So I'm like, took me 6 years. I need 10 minutes here on the top. And it's not like there was a lot of people on the top. Luckily, we were only like 3-4 of us on the top. So I had the whole summit to almost like myself.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I think it was just mostly expressing gratitude in my mind to the mountain and to every person who had like contributed to my journey.
Yeah.
And like, yes, it's an individual sport, and you are interviewing me, you're not interviewing anyone else, and everyone interviews me. But there's such a big team behind me, and there's so many people whose hard work has gotten me to the top of Everest. And so I was just sitting down and remembering everyone and just saying a big thank you, and like, let's just get down now. Let's get down now. No fingers cut, no toes cut. I have to get back down. Right again, then the veganism kicks in. If I have any finger cut, they're going to, like tied to my veganism. If there's anything that happens to Kuntal, it's going to get tied to veganism, right? So this is also a big drawback about me and veganism not being detachable.
Wow.
Because then if something goes wrong, it's going to come back to veganism for me, unfortunately.
It motivates you a lot.
It does motivate me a lot. Yeah. Like I think about when I'm trouble on the mountain, or when I like need some motivation, like,
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try and cut my story short. When I submitted Everest in 2016, I was wearing a dead animal on my body.
Right.
So I don't think it was a vegan climb. And so while it was the first time I climbed Everest and I debunked several myths around a vegan diet, I was still wearing a non-vegan suit on my body. I tried hard for 5 years creating that suit, trying to talk to many companies, trying to do whatever I could to build that suit. I couldn't. I climbed Everest with a dead animal, and I honestly consider this to be the biggest failure of my life. And it is okay. You may disagree, a lot of people disagree with that. But I consider it the biggest failure of my life. Decided to go climb Everest, second time. Built an animal-free suit with the help of Save the Duck. And I went on Everest again in 2019. And I remember as we were below the summit, we were at this area called the second step. And there was a traffic jam for 45 minutes at that area. It is a very, very difficult technical area, and many people get stuck there. But I was running low on oxygen and I was feeling very cold, very, very, very cold. For the first time in my career of 10 years of climbing, I had a thought, let's go home.
No way.
I'm like, I have proved to the world everything, and there's nothing left to be proven.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but I'm wearing this suit, and this climb is purely for the animals. There's no personal journey here, there's no spiritual journey here, there's no journey here. The only journey is animals. Why am I giving up? I am 100% fit. Heck, not 100%, I'm 200% fit. And I feel freaking strong just because there's a minor discomfort of, some slow climbers or, for 45 minutes getting stuck somewhere. I'm deciding to go home. This is not done for the animals. Right? Like, think about what 80 billion land animals go through every year when they are slaughtered. Think about not discomfort, they are losing their life. And here I am, some freaking, stupid climbers, getting stuck, and I'm like, worried about that. Not done. Wow. So that's, the story I told me at that point. I'm like, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not going home. It's not happening now. I have worked for this all my life. Wearing this suit and standing on top of Everest, this is what I worked for. I can't give up. I'm not happening. So I'm like, let's just put your head down. Yeah. Luckily, those climbers somehow figured out the way up. Took me like mere 5 minutes to get to the, where they were. Yeah. I'm like, you should just have let me pass. Anyway, 5:30 that morning, I stood on top of Everest. I had a vegan flag in my hand. The new vegan flag. So I had that vegan flag in my hand and I flew it on the top. Deep down, I knew that no animal had to suffer or die for my dreams to come. As much as practically possible, right? Because I'm not like trying to be a perfect vegan, but I did the best I could.
Yeah, of course.
I had set myself some standards and I stood on the top. Yeah. So that, I feel, honestly was the culmination of the dream that I saw in 2010, where I'm like, I'm going to climb Everest as a vegan.
That's so amazing. And the jacket that you were wearing, which was like custom made for you by Save the Dog.
Right. So I had wrote to so many companies all over the world. Everyone from a mountain hardware to a North Face to a Wrap to Primaloft to any company you have thought of, I have written to them. Yeah. Literally like writing to a black box or somehow writing to people who are like, this is financially not viable. You are literally the only human in the world demanding for this jacket. The research and development cost is too humongous. So many excuses and no's basically. Yeah. To the point where in July 2017, I somehow happened to write to Save the Dark.
Nice.
That, like, here was my, like, I'll send you the screenshot of that message. So all I wrote to Save the Dark was that, can I purchase 5 kgs of insulation from you? Because what was happening is I felt that people thought that I was asking them for money, or people thought that I was asking them for sponsorship or something like that. I'm like, chuck everything, just give me your insulation, I'll build the suit on myself. I don't need you, any of you guys. Give me your insulation, I'll build the suit on my own and I'll go to the top. Save the Duck got on phone call with me 10 minutes later after the message. And the chief marketing officer back then, there was this lady called Giada. She said that we are very interested in not just giving you the insulation, but we are actually interested in making the suit for you. Amazing. And like, wow, what just happened out of the blue? Yeah. 8 months of research and development later, and working very closely with the chief designer Sylvia, who is still the chief designer of the company, so many years later, and has been building many incredible newer versions of the suit for both Mingma and I. Nice. I got my first suit. First ever animal-free suit of the world, and I summited Mount Lhotse, which is the 4th tallest mountain, in May of 2018. It's also a sister mountain of Everest. From the top of Lhotse, you can literally see like Everest is stone throw away, not literally. It's just like a symbolic thing, right? Yeah. So when I stood on top of Lhotse, it was very clear in my mind. It's no longer a question of how. It's only a question of when it's going to happen. And you will not believe, in 2018, it was not just me standing on top of Everest wearing a Save the Duck suit. It was also Mingma Tenzi, my Sherpa guide, my Sherpa partner, wearing a Save the Duck suit and standing on the top. So Save the Duck didn't send me one suit, but they sent me 2 suits. They thought that maybe I may need a backup if something goes wrong with the first suit. Nothing went wrong with the first suit, so I gave my second suit to Mingma, who was very happy to wear that suit. And today, Mingma is also a Save the Duck ambassador. Mingma, honestly, I feel is one of the, in the contemporary generation, I feel is one of the top 5 climbers on the planet today. A lot of people may think this is a very big statement, but I honestly believe it from the bottom of my heart. He was the climber who made climbing K2 in winters possible after 32 attempts at that mountain. He was the first human to step foot on top of K2 in winters. So,
And he's wearing Save the Duck.
and he was wearing Save the Duck on K2 in winters. And now he has gone on a different journey with Save the Duck. He's also a fellow Save the Duck ambassador with me. There are 14 8,000 meter mountains in the world, and climbing all these 14 is considered a very big feat. And Mingma has now climbed, I think, 11 or 12 out of them wearing Save the Duck suit. He's only too shy of creating a record of wearing an animal-free suit on top of all 8,000 meter mountains. And I hope, before you ask me what's my next mountain,
I was gonna ask you.
this is the first time I am divulging this information on any podcast ever. My hope is that Mingma, when he climbs the last two, I'll be standing with him on the top. So that is also hopefully my next journey.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful.
I can't do the 14, and I don't want to do the 14. But I want to be there when he finishes the 14 and be there with him and celebrate with him.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for people in India who are looking to transition to veganism?
Right. So for people who are like fence sitting, or people who are aspiring vegans, or people who are just like, hey, I have heard about veganism, maybe I would like to think. I think one of the first tips like I like to give them is something that I personally practice with everything in my life, which is progress versus perfection. I think you can always aspire to be a perfect vegan, but honestly, in my mind, you cannot be a perfect vegan ever in today's world. It's like it's not going to happen under any circumstances. So I honestly feel that people can start, instead of getting very overwhelmed, like, oh, vegan means I have to give up this, or change this or change that. And a lot of this applies to people who may not have made the connection, the ethical connection, right?
Right.
Some of them are like, it doesn't matter, I don't care. I'm okay if animals are getting exploited. I'm okay, but maybe I would like to change. Maybe I would like to do something about it. But they don't feel so strongly about veganism as I or you do.
I get it.
No, I'm not going to do this. Right? But a lot of people don't feel like that. And they just need perhaps a slightly more gradual journey towards veganism, where they can start making smaller changes in their day-to-day life. It could just be simpler things that they can remove from their lifestyle, like easier to replace your soaps or shampoos or some of those things with maybe cruelty-free products, or easier to replace your leather jackets, leather shoes, all of those with cruelty-free products. Because in today's day and age, the alternatives are mind-bogglingly good. Right? It's not like we are from 10 years ago where alternatives were not so great. And so these pieces may be easier to transition out from their lives, and then perhaps starting to eat more vegan meals in a week. Instead of saying that I'm just going to go cold turkey or cold tofu, whatever you want to call it. I think like doing a slightly gentler transition from a meal's perspective. And again, some of us believe in this from the bottom of our heart. So it's easier to, like, I'm committed to the cause. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stick to the cause. But not, as I said, not everyone may have that level of commitment. So I feel we need to, my tip would be for them to just do smaller things and step-by-step journey. And at the end of the day, don't be too harsh on yourself. Like for so many vegans also, I now don't take this back on me and say that, like, hey, that you approve of veganish or, something like that. No, I don't approve of veganish. But I have seen many vegans from time to time, like they'll be like, okay, I want to eat a piece of bread, or I want to like eat this non-vegan dessert, and like they eat it. And then they unnecessarily guilt shame themselves over it. And I have seen some of the vegans go in such a rut that they have actually not been vegans after that cycle. So my point is that I think if a vegan, look, we are all humans. We are going to make mistakes, things, kind of, go wrong. Some of us are very committed to the cause. And even those people can sometimes falter. So I feel you have to be a little bit more gentle on yourself as you go through this journey. And I have also seen a lot of activists burn out because they are not getting, like, they're going out and doing a lot of activism and they are, not getting the desired results. Be gentle on yourself. This is unlearning and breaking conditioning of multiple centuries is going to be a battle which is going to be 50,000x climbing Everest in winters, okay? It's that much uphill of a battle that together all of us have to fight, right? So I do honestly think that you progress versus perfection and that you have to be a little gentle on yourself. And I think for people who are just aspiring vegans or new vegans, I think find support in communities. Like, for example, yesterday night at the festival, I met so many vegans who were like, for example, one of the vegans is Sai Vignesh. And he runs an animal sanctuary in Tamil Nadu. And such a rock star guy. Honestly, a rock star guy. You should definitely interview him, whenever you maybe perhaps come back, again next time.
I'd love to.
He was like, at home I feel like an outcast, but here at the festival I feel loved, and I feel I get this sense of community.
So sweet.
And it was like, so I feel you need to find that sense of community. You need to find vegan friends. You need to go out hiking with them. You need to perhaps go out visit vegan restaurants with them. And I'm not saying leave your non-vegan friends behind, right? You can always have vegan friends, you can always have non-vegan friends, all of this is fine. So I feel find that community where you can get the support, because your family may not be very supportive, your friends may not be very supportive, but vegan community will always be supportive. Right? So find that community and
that's great advice.
I would say if there are any questions, around like questions around nutrition, questions around fitness and like I met a vegan again after my talk at the festival who said that I'm being bullied for being very lean and people say that I'm very weak because I'm a vegan. So if you have any questions around fitness, or if you are any such issue, or if you're facing anything, feel free to write to some of us like me, Sandeep, and you and so many of us vegans. Feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to guide them or connect them to people who can perhaps guide them in becoming fit or in kind of dealing with these kind of things. So that would be, what would be my last kind of a tip or last kind of a message.
That's so good, because you're, I love these tips because you're making it, saying you want it to be sustainable for people. So we have to be, let people follow their own vegan journey and be patient with themselves. And I love it. I was going to say, do you have one final message to leave the listeners with today? But I feel like you kind of said it already.
I mean, the one that I tell at pretty much every talk or everywhere I go, that if, like I just told you, like back in 2009, I was like 110 kilos.
Wow.
Like, if a 110 kilo Gujarati software engineer, Gujarati is the community I come from, that is not known for athletics from any angle or sports from any angle whatsoever. 110 kilo Gujarati and a software engineer, all those three. If I can go on a journey and transform myself to becoming a fit mountaineer who went and climbed Everest not just once but twice, and while doing it as a vegan, I honestly feel that each one of us who wants to be vegan and has big dreams in their life, doesn't have to be climbing Everest, can be any dream. I honestly feel can be done without any animals having to suffer or die for our dreams to come true or for our existence as well.
I love that. That is, you are the example of having your dreams come true without any animals having to suffer for it. And thank you so much for sharing that and for everything that you do and for being on today's episode. And like you said, he's available on your Instagram as well. People can reach you there. Is it at Kuntal Joisher? I don't know how to say your last name.
You can reach out to me on Instagram. I think that would be the easiest. That kind of keeps it at one. But if you find my website, which has not been updated for 7-8 years now, it says that I'm 37 years old. I'm 43 years old. So you can clearly see that website has not been updated for 6 years at least. KuntalJoisher.com.
Okay.
Or Facebook or LinkedIn or...
Just that's the handle,
If you don't remember my name, just type first vegan in the
Yeah,
world to
yeah,
climb
you can
Everest.
find
Maybe
it.
you will find me, maybe you will find someone else, but you'll find help and
We'll
support.
find you, yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing this all on today's episode. It was really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you to all the listeners for tuning in today's episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Changemakers podcast. My name is Farahamberh, and I hope that you enjoyed the episode. If you did, it would really mean the world to me if you could rate the podcast, and also remember to follow the podcast to stay updated on new episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.